you got another topic before we launch?
Uh, well, I mean, I think what we are launching into is really came out of the word of the year, obfuscation, right?
Yes, to obfuscate.
Obfu Yes. And so to make something murky, unclear,
Yes.
unintelligible, it seems to be, I don't know about the timing, like how it came into full view, but since about, I don't know, January, it seems to be on full display everywhere. And you and I talked about this. We also talked about how our listeners, the people that really come to us to help make sense of this whole leadership thing, are saying, hey, there is so much conflict, so much disequilibrium, so much stuff out there. So you and I dove into this thing and we said, let's talk about it.
The Hollow Buddy. And we all feel hollow sometimes.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Hollow Bunny Leadership Podcast. I'm Kristen Zeman, and I am here with my capable and captivating host, Sylvia Moyer. Yeah, how was that?
Wow, what an alliteration that
Thank you.
really describes me today.
Yeah,
It's
does
so
it?
early. The sun is not even up here on the West Coast.
See, when we talk early and I give you this alliteration, these adjectives to describe you, I really do feel like it sets the tone for the day for you. So today you will be capable and captivating because I have labeled you as such.
You did, and I am
Mhm.
rising to the challenge.
Yeah.
Now, I just want you to know that this hair, I did, if I, no matter what, shower, wash my hair, blow dry my
Hmm.
hair. If I don't do that, call hospice because shit has gone really, really bad. It's super early. I actually, this is not bedhead. This is my girl. When I said just shape it a little, this is
Okay.
what she did.
I was going to ask you, your hair is different. It's not
Hmm.
styled the same as it usually is.
Yeah,
I
she,
like it. It's just different than what is
yeah.
usual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I said, hey, Kelly, any chance you want to pay attention?
What was she doing? Was she just like doing the wordle while she was?
I'm not sure, but if I were to pull this down, this side is like here, and this side's up here. Literally, if I were to show you, you would be mortified. But I am capable. I'm confident, and I'm what,
You're capable
captivating?
and captivating is what you
Okay,
are. So basically, what I hear you saying here is that there's a little bit of conflict with your hairdresser because you didn't really like the way that she did it this time. Are we? Is it uneven? Do we have to have a
it's
maybe
it's
a
uneven.
courageous conversation with her?
I do. And see right here, I said, what's going on right here?
Yeah,
What are we doing?
yeah,
What's
yeah. Does she have a
Yeah.
nice hairdo?
She's adorable. Oh my God, she's got gorgeous skin,
Hmm.
her gorgeous hair. I
Would you
love,
go
love
to
her.
would you so this is funny, this is not our topic, but would
Here we
you
go.
go to I follow she was actually one of my guests, podcast guests on the Disruptors Creed, but her name is Erica, and she goes by Level Up Erica on Instagram, and she was talking about how we shouldn't be taking advice from any like nutritionists or any fitness gurus that are not in shape. And it got me thinking about, like what, like, duh, why would you go to a person who is out of shape to get a fitness regime?
Okay, wait,
And why would you go to someone to cut your
wait.
hair who has a bad haircut? I don't know. Is that
Okay,
just
okay, I
talk to
get that.
me?
I get that. So here's the difference. Um, Bad haircut and good haircut, that's judgment, right? How do you know if it's bad or
Okay,
good? We're
fair.
not pros, we can't assess. And I know one fitness trainer that you look at him and you're like, are you really? He
Uh-huh.
is fit. He is flexible. He really engages with older adults. He does functional mobility.
Mobility.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but to look at somebody, you don't know if they're in shape. And point on this, Kristen, is several times. I ran how many eight marathons. I was running New York or Chicago marathon, and I was in tip top shape,
Yeah.
and I'm running, and I saw this person in front of me that I was
Yeah.
a little judgy,
Uh-huh.
that didn't look like a runner.
Yep. Hmm.
Oh
Okay. Yeah.
my God, schooled me. schooled
Okay.
me. So a lot of fitness, and we did a fitness challenge here, and one of the guys, he was, I think, the most fit. I mean, if we say fit, you don't look at him and think he is fit. He looks like a fire plug. He can run forever. He can lift forever. He runs like 20 miles. He doesn't look like he could get to the parking lot.
Okay. I needed that
So
smackdown. No, I needed that
that
smackdown because yeah,
that's
you're
a
right.
judgy
It's a judgment.
smackdown.
It's a judgy call. Exactly. And I will tell you,
Well,
I mean, I'm the slowest runner. If I run a race, I am getting lapped by 80-year-olds and people, how you describe, don't quote, look like runners. So yeah, you're right. It's a judgment call. It is.
It,
Mm,
yeah, and you kind of needed that smackdown
I
because
did.
you know what?
I'm taking it.
I'd trade being a fast runner to look like that gun show. Look at that.
Yeah. Oh no.
Look at your
Oh
arms.
no, no.
I
Oh
mean,
no. I'm the slowest, like turtle through peanut butter. That's how slow I run. It's pathetic.
oh God, good thing I like totals.
I like Totos. I
I
like
like
Totos.
totals. I love peanut
So you
butter.
know what?
Okay,
Wait, listen. I don't know if our listeners should we reveal that we I don't know if we should reveal this, but this is pretty big. But that we got a copy of the Epstein files, and are we going to go through it the next podcast? Or do you want to go through it today, or do you want to stick with talking about conflict?
I think we stick with talking about conflict because it
Okay.
is a
Okay.
launch to obfuscation and just like let's create another crisis over there so nobody pays attention to us
Okay.
shitting our pants
Okay.
over
All right.
here.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
We'll tackle that the next time. But boy, there are some
for
bombshells in
sure.
there. So okay. So today we will be exploring the concept of the conflict intelligent leader, which I thought was very interesting. We've heard of EQ leaders, right? Those with
For
a
sure.
high EQ. This is a high CIQ, and this is straight out of Harvard Business Review because hey, if you lead people or, if you live with people or if you bump into other humans at any point in your life, guess what? You're going to face conflict. So I
Right.
guess the question that we're going to tackle here is, are we navigating conflict with emotional reactivity or are we using it as a lever for trust, innovation, and transformation?
Yes, and it was Peter T. Coleman, professor at Columbia University, who wrote this article that you and I reviewed in Harvard Business Review to really dive into this topic about how could we bring not only what we know in terms of the courage to address conflict, kind of the manner and the mindfulness in which we approach conflict because it does create emotion, but also enjoying our experience with some of the writings out there, some of the research that is informing this space. And so I guess the first thing is it takes courage, right? It takes courage and intent to confront conflict. And there's this thing when I was talking about this with somebody earlier, they said, well, what's the difference? Isn't it emotional intelligence? And part of this CIQ, conflict intelligence quotient, is really kind of associated with emotional intelligence. But what Coleman kind of offered is that EQ, emotional intelligence, right,
Mm-hmm.
is part of the CIQ in terms of understanding our own emotions, how things come up for us. But it is broader because it is not only the regulation and knowing of one's own emotions and the knowing of the other, but it is broader because it's really incorporating situational awareness and some of the different strategies that have been used globally for big stuff, real peacemaking stuff broadly, and conflict resolution broadly. But let's put it in the space of a leader in an organization, right?
Yeah. So I loved the article. Coleman, I think he's Columbia University, but he said that conflict intelligence is a learnable skill. And I appreciate that because there are so many of these virtues or these skills that we talk about that make for a good leader. And, those are things like, again, conflict resolution, confidence, competency, all of those. The nice part about all of this is that these are all skills that we can learn. And this particular skill of conflict intelligence builds resilience and adaptive teams. So we're not just talking about resolving conflict, we're talking about using it as a force for good and for growth of our organization and for our culture. So I think the whole setting the stage here and why this topic matters is that conflict is everywhere. As we just said, it's in all of our organizations. And those leaders who avoid conflict, you might as well not even call yourself a leader if you are
Right.
constantly running in the other direction, or you're asking someone else to handle it, where you have your hatchet man or the person who handles all that. It's going to take away your credibility as a leader. So you might as well figure out how to do it.
For sure. And the pieces, that I really like picking apart, with the mindfulness practice, with all the things, that I think I focus on quite a bit, is the situational adaptivity and self-awareness, right? So the situational adaptivity, look, this article by Coleman was remarkable, where he talked about many of the conflicts through Indonesia and the tsunami, through the Middle East crisis, and a number of conflicts that real conflict resolution peacekeepers went in and mediated and brokered these real important deals so that folks get along and there's some growth out of it. But let's take that and ratchet it and refocus it perhaps into an organization. Situational adaptivity is some kind of strategy that a leader would come up with, a resolution strategy based on the context, the nature of the conflict, right? And I think that is understanding the pliability of the human condition and then adapting to the scale of the issue at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, I think, coupled with that, is this self-awareness. And we talk about it a lot. The leaders, the real solid bunnies, are the people that understand their own emotional reactions, their own biases in conflict situations, and can regulate and understand. They have agency and they have a knowing about their own triggers, their own emotions, and they can remain present for the greater good of the situation that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
for you're squinting. For most people, it's like I use a meditation practice
Mm-hmm.
to increase my mindfulness in this unfolding experience, and that has kept me present in conflicts and while resolving conflicts as just the first stage.
Right. Okay. So, listen, I love me some Harvard Business Review, and I love the academic theories behind it. But, you know, there's also something that I thought the article was missing, and that was just the whole basic premise of inviting the conflict, or I'll even say it another way, is that do you find, and I'll ask the question, but it's been my experience, is that there's a lot of conflict in our organizations that once you bring people to the table and you start talking about it in a transparent way and you start meeting the issue head on, is that I can think of a million examples where I started to hear rumblings that we were in conflict, and then we all came to the table, and I think that we have to start there. There has to be a willingness to say that I'm feeling the conflict from somewhere, whether it's this problem that we're trying to solve or whether you disagree with something that I'm doing in this organization. I think that we fail to recognize that step one, before we even get into the seven habits of conflict intelligent leaders in the HBR framework, is that we have to be willing to come to the table and say, okay, let's bring it here. And that sometimes I find is the hardest step. I find once we get there, then all of these things come into play. So I just want to make sure that I call that out. It's like a bunch of word salad academia shit to say, okay, let's be willing to hash out
Yeah.
some things, you know? And so that to me is the first step. And so I don't know, I just want to point that out. And then the second part is I love what you said, because this concept of self-control is regulating and recognizing your own emotions, right?
Hmm.
You do it in a way where you sit quietly. I learned that from you. And then by doing it, what I learned from that is this conflict bubbles up. Every time I try to avoid conflict and I sit quietly, it bubbles up. There it is. It's whether it's having a hard conversation with someone I care about, or whether having a business conversation that I'm just, don't want to do it because it's going to be uncomfortable. It all bubbles up for me. And that's how I know that I have to do it. It's like that whole idea of where discomfort lies is the thing that you really need to lean into. And so I like what you said about that, because that frames it for you. For me, it gives me the consciousness of this is gnawing at me, and when I'm quiet and I hear about it. So, maybe that's just a good place to start, is for all of us to go, hey, okay, what are the things in our lives that are causing us conflict right now? Is it a personal relationship, or is it a relationship in our organization? Now, maybe let's dive into the CIQ, and the idea of self-control. That's the mirror. If you cannot control your emotions as a leader, well, then you're probably not going to be effective in conflict resolution with anyone else. It's know thyself.
Without a doubt. And what I love, love, love that you put a finer point on that. Put a pin in that. It's recognizing the persistence of the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's this you just described. If it is persistent, it is gnawing, then hit it. And really, that may just be the key to this, because we can pull all the different levers. With a really big conflict, you're going to have to adapt, but you're going to have to find different ways to develop strategies to kind of address it. You're going to have to use systemic thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
But none of that matters until you actually recognize what's going on. And you just
Yeah.
gave everybody a really important piece, and that is whatever your method to identify what are the persistent and enduring kind of things that are troubling you, that you're thinking about, that's keeping you up, needs to be addressed. And without addressing it, it will not go away, so that you can focus your energies on what matters for advancing self and organization. Way to
Yeah, and
go, Kristen.
well,
For
and I
sure.
think that's it. I think that conflict intelligence, what they don't hit on it in this article is knowing when to lean in, and also knowing when to pivot. Not everything requires you to sit down and talk things out, and also how to
For
lead
sure.
without igniting a dumpster fire. And I guess that goes into the self-control. So it's like, I think that's what it is for me, is like, does this have to be addressed? And there are some times when something does bubble up for me, but then I actually have a real honest conversation and I say, you know what? I'm not emotionally invested in this relationship to sit down and to hash this out. And so then I make
Yeah.
a conscious decision not to. So just something that wasn't in the article, but just kind of my editorial, is that not everything requires that, we get in the ring and we have conflict with someone. So maybe knowing the difference is also part of this emotional intelligence.
For sure. And Kristen, I'm going to kind of Jake Zeman beat change here. Well, it's not really a beat change, but I want to kind of hammer down on something. We, in the past, this year, you and I have engaged in some kind of assessment of these assumptions that we make.
Mm-hmm.
That is a conflict. Is it an interpersonal conflict? Is it a conflict with self, with other? It's very, very interesting. And part of what
Are you
you're
talking about what
saying,
just happened? Are you talking about what just happened with you and I in a text message that you sent?
shut up.
That was conflict, That was conflict
It
because
was.
you just talked about making an assumption, and then that's exactly what happened. So, listeners, so
Yeah.
let's talk about it. So, you and I, we decided that we are going to, with our spouses, we are going to go to a Bears game. Go Bears! And we're going to fly to
Chicago.
Chicago, and we're going to meet there. And there's also some other friends who live in Chicago that we want to see. Well, we were talking about going to the Bears game. You're like, yep, we're going to go to the Bears game. And then, so we're going to fly in. And then the next text message you sent was, okay, well, I'm going to go have dinner with these people and then we'll meet up for the Bears game. And I read your text message and I thought, and I went
What
right into
the?
assumptions. I was like, wait, why did you just exclude us for dinner? And like, I'm sitting there and I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, we're gonna go to the Bears game, but then we're not invited to dinner the night before the Bears game. So I sat there ruminating, making assumptions, and my first thought was, does that other couple not like us? Like, are we not invited? And then you, by the help of your spouse, said, this was pointed out to me that of course you're invited to dinner. And I was like, wow, Sylvia, you failed at the EQ, but
I did.
kudos.
Okay.
Because, and then I read it and I was like, okay, cool. And you were just leaving space. I made an assumption which was not true.
Right, because perhaps informed by your interactions with others instead of your tribe, your front row, your on the bridge chick. Okay, because and my kind of thing was, ooh, okay, so you're flying from Florida, we're flying from California. We're going to meet, we're going to go to your hometown where all your people are, where
Mm-hmm.
everybody who follows you on social media sees your massive tribe, and you got family and you got people and you've got all these things, plus you might be going into living there part-time, so you're going to be looking for
Yes.
space. I thought,
We're
ooh,
looking for condos.
I don't want Kristen and Chris to think they have to hang out with us every day. So I'm just, okay, we'll just go and we'll go to dinner and just give them a pass. So here was this like
So well
kind
meaning, so
thing.
well intended. Yes. To give us
Yeah, but
space to go hang out with other people. And I was like,
yeah,
I went right to, well, I guess we're not invited to dinner. So,
I
okay.
know. I didn't handle. I was like, oh, I don't want them to think they have to spend the whole weekend with us because they've got
Yeah.
5 billion people they need to see. So oh, we'll just do this. And then when I read it again and I was questioning on, it, I'm like, Kristen knows she knows. And I got does she? I'm like, yes. And then I went, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, there is an interpersonal conflict, right? It was something that, here's the difference. I know your intention. I know your heart. You know mine. You know my heart. So I quickly say, "Oh, that was kind of a dick move. I didn't mean that." And you're like, "Okay,
Yeah.
good," because I was sucking my thumb in the
Yes,
corner,
exactly. Okay, but
and then
now
we got over
listen
it.
to, what's so fascinating is that this was an interpersonal conflict, and it doesn't even rise to the level of a conflict. It was just I literally was like, oh, I guess we're not
It was like
invited to
a,
dinner.
it
Like
was
what?
a,
It,
wait, what?
Wait,
Wait,
what? Exactly. But
what?
think about though how many conflicts begin like that, where if because I intended on saying something, but you beat me to it when you said, "Wait, I was just advised that may not have sounded. Of course, you're invited." Okay, but look at these from this article and the habits of conflict intelligent leaders. Number one is to build trust before the conflict
Yes,
even begins.
yes,
So think
yes.
about that. We have a trust with each other where I can look at you and say, and that was going to be my response, but you beat me to it, was like, well, wait, are we not invited to dinner? Because we would like to go to dinner, because I trust you enough to be able to have conflict
Word.
with you. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Well, uh, you also trusted me to make sure you didn't have a chia seed in your tooth, which
and you failed
I
at
never
that. Yeah.
noticed. So now
Yeah.
I
Right.
do an entire body scan and cavity search to
Yes.
make sure you don't have
Yes.
anything that's going to pour out on
That's right.
our podcast. All right. So yeah, laying the groundwork and having that trust relationship, growing rapport is absolutely essential. Now, if you're a new leader, you have to build that rapport, and that
Yeah.
rapport is really important to build trust. And we've talked about this so much, that trust is essential in leadership. And this year, as kind of illuminated in the Gallup poll, hope has exceeded trust as an essential component characteristic of a leader. So you need hope and trust. And so that is really important. So it is, the article really brings out laying the groundwork, building rapport as the first two. And then he talked about balance discipline with creativity. And really, I think what he's saying there is be adaptable, have discipline and rigor around kind of how you're going to approach this on the scale that's appropriate for whatever you're dealing with, and then be creative with the approach. Now, in our conflict with TextGate, we're going to call it, because we have Chia Gate and now we have
Mhm.
TextGate.
Yeah.
I just came out and said, look, I think that may not have landed well. Like, and you said, yeah, that kind of stung a little bit. It ouched me. And I was like, okay, so let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of built on what rapport we have, what trust we have. And then we're just like, okay, this is how it's going to go. We're going to move forward. And that just worked,
Yeah, and
right?
think about though how in these habits of conflict intelligent leaders, the first one is lay the groundwork, the second one is foster collaboration, and then next is balance firmness with creativity. Okay, so moving into our organizations, if you have a leader, and this is what all this means when it's like again, these word salads make me absolutely insane. Build trust before the conflict ever starts. Well, what the fuck does that even mean? Well, here is what it means. It means that if you have gone to your leader before and voiced something that you maybe don't understand, or maybe that it, is a conflict, and you are met with defensiveness, and you are met with someone who yells and who doesn't regulate their emotions, well, then you are not going to go to them a second time. And
Sure.
so there will be no collaboration, and there will be no balancing firmness with creativity if you can't even go there in the first place. So building that trust looks like this. Have you set a culture where conflict is healthy, where feedback and criticism comes not from pushing people down, or as we've talked about, punishing them, but of genuinely trying to get people to improve? Does it come from a sincere place of caring? So that's what those first three mean. I can balance that firmness with creativity as long as I know that you trust me, that I'm not going to
Right.
explode on you, and that I'm going to be open to maybe the misunderstanding that. And listen, in TextGate, the story I was telling myself was we're not invited. And then my head started going into, did I say something to that other couple? Like, did they? So do you see what happens there is like you start ruminating and you start filling in this
Sure.
narrative. So that's the point, is to be able to foster that collaboration by saying, oh my gosh, I completely misunderstood, misread the situation.
Right.
And then we can move into the other steps, adaptation, using different tools for different fires. I love that
For
one.
for sure. Situational adaptivity, mastering this adaptive, flexible approach is absolutely essential. What did the Marines say? Improvise, adapt, and overcome. And it's
Yeah.
looking for other options. The rigidity that you and I fight against is very real in this number four, mastering adaptivity. So, what it's saying to leaders is just have a different kind of a set of tools, a set of paths that you could travel that might get to a resolution. And that
Yeah.
one, I think, is really coupled with self-awareness and
Yeah.
knowing if you're being rigid, right, and
Yeah.
sticking to a really rigid script.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of what we talked about in our accountability podcast with Ted, when that adaptation of using different tools for different fires. And we talked about treating our, the people who work for us differently based on their personalities. And as Ted talked about his children, and how, I have the same experiences. Like I treat, as far as discipline, one child will respond into a different technique. Same with humans, it's the same thing. So it's knowing when to adapt. And like for me, if you sat me down and you gave me feedback, I don't like soft feedback. I just want you to tell me, I just want you to punch me right in the throat. That's what I respond to. I'm really good at that, but some people aren't. Some people you have to, the whole point here is that sometimes you have to use different
For sure.
techniques with different people. And in order to have that high conflict intelligence, is you have to know when to apply and with whom.
For sure. And it's super interesting because it speaks to an intentionality, I think.
Yeah.
Number five is to leverage the broader context. And it is really looking at the wider constellation of forces that are putting pressure on the issue. And it also speaks to looking at the long game. And I don't think this one needs to be picked apart too much in an organization conversation here, but it really forces us to say, look, there are a variety of pressures and there are a variety of options, and look at the long game, right?
Yeah. You know, the way I took it though, and this isn't picking it apart. The way that I took it is that the and leveraging context was understanding how perhaps power dynamics affect a situation, how when people don't speak up, understanding even how race, how gender, and how different cultures affect the way that we think and that we communicate. And so that's what I applied to it.
Mhm. Yeah, there definitely has to be, with understanding the constellation of forces and pressures, to have some kind of cultural competence to understand some of the deep roots are that's important.
Yeah.
And that can be done in an organization as well. So
Yeah.
that examination has to take place. And number six was aim for generational peace. And really in an organization in the scale that we influence and discuss and leaders do broadly, it is about kind of the waves of employees that are coming in, and the model and looking at a sustaining conflict resolution that is enduring. That is what we want to achieve. It's not just in the immediate and in this group of leaders. It cascades throughout the organization and creates some real permanence for how the organization endures. There's a great description about the CEO of Pepsi when this CEO took over Pepsi and talked and was faced with all these folks coming up and saying, we don't want our kids to drink soda. We don't want them to eat these snacks that aren't good for us. And this CEO, rather than rebranding the whole company of Pepsi, which I'm a shareholder, I love it, invest in what you consume, right? This CEO said, we're going to bifurcate the company and we're going to say that we can take two tracks that advance the company and advance the product that's going to market, the products that are going to market. And this CEO said, okay, we're going to have our traditional side with Pepsi and all the other products, right, that so many Americans love and people love across the globe. And we're going to have this other one influenced by nutritionists and those folks that are really in the space of reducing sugars and other things for the health of people. And that was an adaptive kind of generational piece, PEPIECE for peace, PEACE
AC.
for the
Yeah.
company, right? And it advanced the company. I thought that was so adaptive and so insightful. I loved that example.
Yeah, that was a good example. I want to go back to investing long term because I think that there's another way to look at it. And since I always look at things weirdly or differently,
I say tan, you say beige. Holy shit.
right. But you know what else I thought about when applying the invest in the long term? I know exactly what you mean about generational. We have to build for sustainability, for legacy. But what I took away from that was not just winning the argument, winning the relationship.
Sure.
And this one is one that I have failed so many times. And I think
Oh,
about as the chief and having all of this conflict with the union board, and especially during contract negotiations or during perhaps a disciplinary issue against an officer. And we are fighting to win, and we get so fixated on winning, and it's win at all costs, but we don't think about winning the relationship. And it's happened on both sides. And I have looked at some of the big wins that we have got in the department, and I remember thinking, at what cost? Because that just severed a relationship. So I like to think about that in terms of relationships as well. Don't just win the argument, win the relationship.
That's such an important point. And as you say that, a whole bunch of my little brain files are opening, recalling experiences that really speak to that. What I find just so fascinating, I'm taking an off ramp here just for a quick second, like 30 seconds, is that a lot of police unions, which you're referencing, they're just like so many of them are grievance collectors. They want to collect all these grievances and they want to be combative and fight. And we all want the same thing. I want employees that insert humanity and are discerning and held accountable. And I don't get it. I don't get the conflict. And I think they just fight to fight. Okay, so
No, it is.
severed
It's win
relationship.
at all costs.
Let's
Win at all costs. Like
right.
get rid of
And
the win at all costs. Like what is just what is the best outcome for the organization?
highlight that, right? And go back 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 10 seconds on your podcast and listen to that again, because that's a really important point. You're saying that the relationship is the enduring kind of generational thing. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's real. I'm gonna chew on that for a bit.
Yeah. It's more short
Super.
term. It's more short term than
Yeah.
long term, but I'm sticking by it.
Yeah. And a part of this, many of the examples in this article, and like you and I know through our experience, don't let a good conflict go by. I mean, be
Oh,
opportunistic is number 7. Oh my God, be
yes.
predatory on a
Big.
conflict, something where you can bring people together to get to the central commonalities of the issue that will advance the relationship, advance the strategy, advance the tactics, influence a culture and the climate of the organization, really get it done. Be on the lookout for those opportunities and ready to pounce when they present themselves. Leaders are ready to dive in to do the work, right?
Oh, I love that. I think of it as using conflict as a launch pad for innovation. It
Yep.
is so easy to walk around as a leader and say, tell me what's right. Tell me what's going great. That's great. That's wonderful. I mean, it's the low hanging fruit. But it's when you walk around and say, tell me what's wrong. Tell me what needs changing. Uh, Find the conflict, seek out the conflict. And that's part of my mantra, fight for feedback. I appreciate what is right. And we'll keep doing that. But let's talk about what's wrong. And that is how you elevate people, relationships, and organizations is using that conflict as a launch pad.
Sure. And how do we create organizations that empower employees to be really intelligent, have conflict intelligence? And part of that is the work that you've committed yourself to and kind of this disruptors creed. It's also kind of a coupling of that with kind of this passion focus work of mine about mindfulness. Be present in the
Yeah.
unfolding experience. I think there are definitely intersections in it. Not that we're at a crossroads, but there's an intersection to building conflict intelligence with this mindfulness work and this disruptors creed and all of the work that leaders do to influence organizations to do the noble work or to profit, whatever their jam is, or to provide great healthcare, whatever
Yeah.
their focus is. There, you can't abandon one for another. So
Yeah.
it's a multi-lane highway for sure.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I have seen too many good leaders fail because they thought maybe being silent was noble or avoiding conflict was easier. But I mean, I have found, and I'm sure you have too, is that unresolved tension always leaks. It will manifest
Yep.
itself somewhere. So I tried to come up with how we apply these in our businesses and in our bureaucracies. And so here are the things that I came up with. You tell me if you agree. But one is to start with you. Figure out your default conflict style. Are you avoiding? That's a big one. Are you aggressive? Are you passive aggressive? What is your style? And learn that. And sometimes again that's about adapting. But figure out what you are, and then lean into that discomfort, and then talk openly to your team about how you deal with disagreement, and talk openly about how you collectively deal with disagreement. Kind of, I guess, head it off at the pass. Is like, hey, if there's conflict that ever comes up, here's what we should do. Set that roadmap ahead of time, and then identify the peacemakers. Who is helping resolve the tension, and are they empowered to do so? I think another important part is also when conflict gets hot, because it does, have a cooling off period. It's okay to hit the pause button and say, hey guys, let's walk away from the table here for just a minute, or until tomorrow, and think, and just have a cooling off period. And then finally is making healthy dissent a feature and not a bug. We have to normalize hard conversations. And
Sure.
so that's sort of the applicable part that I was thinking, how do we begin this right now and add this into our businesses and our organizations?
Right. That's super helpful. So much of this is based on knowing yourself,
Yeah.
examining self, and really overlaying that with the courage to confront, and the courage to
Yeah.
confront yourself and to confront others. There's that, when sprinkled with an intentionality, is that's magic. So, Kristen, this is really in response to a number of things that people have been asking us about. And, our Hollow Bunny Leadership podcast folks are millions and millions of listeners. They reach out
Yes.
to us and they say, hey, there's this thing going on, what do you think? And it really sparks, I think, an interest in us, not only with the people contacting us, but us kind of out in the environment, seeing what's out there. This is really important, and CIQ is really important for leaders. So the hope is that uh, folks got some things to think about, and perhaps got their number two pencil and their yellow pad and jotted some things down, and we'll do some work on this.
Yeah, and if you haven't, hello bunnies, no, substantive bunnies, all of our bunnies, here's what I want to leave you with. I want you to write down on your yellow legal lined notepad, what's your default style? Are you fight? Are you flight? Are you freeze? Also ask yourself in your quiet moments, what conflict have you been avoiding that you need to address right now, either in your personal life or in your professional life? And which of these 7 habits that we went through today from this Harvard Business Review article can you begin implementing this week immediately whenever you hear this podcast? So those are your challenges, bunnies.
Awesome. I appreciate you. You give me some things to think about today. So I think Jake, Zoe, and Fabian bring
Yeah.
us home.
All right. Ted Madden produces this podcast, and the song you're about to hear was written by the aforementioned. If you like our podcast, please subscribe, please like it, please review it, please tell everyone you know about it, share it. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. And if you don't like this podcast, you probably need it more than you realize.
I
Keep
love
filling your own
that.
buddies and keep adding substance to others. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
When you look inside, what do you find? Are you content to fall behind? When you lose your way and you've lost your why? Have courage and get ready to fight the hollow bunny. When the way ahead is covered in smoke and you're tired and you're scared and you're losing hope, you'll open your heart and your eyes to see a challenge and a question. Why not me? To fight the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. When the challenge ahead scares you to death, you tame the imposter inside instead. To change the world, you've got to start small. It takes a leader to say, I don't know it all, and I know I'm gonna fall, but I'll pick it up and come back stronger, failing forward hollow, buddy. If you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. You're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. The monsters